Welcome back to another Joe Stunner boxing video. How are you doing? As you can tell, this is another, well, maybe you can't tell, but it is actually another work lunchtime video. I have my rather lovely, what is this, free range egg salad. What can you do, £1.50. I have some fruit. Nice. Let me take these home. Don't just got back from the shop. Yeah, so here we are again for lunch. Yeah, before I start, I'm feeling somewhat smug. Shall I share it with you, a little non-boxing related anecdote? A group of young ladies who, I don't think it's an exaggeration to say they're young enough to be my daughters, but bear with me. Very attractive young ladies. They said this morning, they said that I was a very sexy man. How about that then, eh? Not bad, I thought. Oh, no, hang on, sorry. No, sexist. They said I was a sexist. Sorry. Sexist. Sorry. I always get those two things mixed up. But, I mean, you know, the point remains, I think young ladies are all up for a bit of stunning loving, if you know what I mean. Anyway, enough bollocks. Enough bollocks. Let's talk boxing bollocks. Because I made a video yesterday, and it was 3 things that every boxing fan should avoid if they want to be taken remotely seriously. Not as a boxing fan, but as a fucking human being. Okay? And those 3 things were, don't be a fanboy. That was the first one. Probably would come top of my irritating list. Don't be a fanboy. Second one was, don't worry about who's promoting a certain fighter or what broadcaster they're aligned to, because it's all irrelevant. Worry about the fights. Don't align yourself to PBC or DAZN and start getting all blindly devoted to either a broadcaster, a fighter, or a promoter. That's all bullshit. And the third one, what was the third one? Oh yes, don't worry or don't concern yourself at all, ever, with how much money a fighter is making or how much money he has in his bank account. The fighters that make the most money are not necessarily the best, and if you try to live vicariously through them as a fanboy or as someone who, even worse, someone who actually thinks that somehow because some fighter has earned a lot of money, he's the greatest, and by being a fan of theirs, I'm sort of living through their, ostentation. I'm the one driving the Ferrari. I'm the one, living in the mansion. No. Stop. Don't do that, because you come across as being a fucking imbecile. So those were the 3 things. Hang on. Right. So we've got another few things we're going to go through. Again, we're talking things that all boxing fans should avoid if they wish to be taken seriously as boxing fans and people. All right. So let's start with pay-per-view. Do not ever be someone who is prepared to pay for one pay-per-view but moans about other people buying one that you don't want. Don't do that. Let me tell you a little personal story. I remember when pay-per-view started. I predate the whole satellite age, certainly predate the internet age. And pay-per-view reared its head. And I bought the first couple, but in the end I said, fuck that, I'm not doing it anymore. They're fleecing us. Now, in the 1990s, I was in my 20s. And Nigel Benn, Chris Eubank, Nassim Hamed later on, a little bit later on, all those were on terrestrial TV. Ben Eubank, Ben McClellan, Eubank Watson had anywhere between, I can't remember the exact figures I found, I think it was anywhere between 12 million to 20 million people watching them. And for that reason, they are heroes, British boxing established legends. Now Hamed, he started off on terrestrial telly, but then he moved, courtesy of Frank Warren, to Sky. He struck up a Sky deal. And Before you knew it, it wasn't a case of just paying your TV licence. You had to subscribe to Sky, you had to pay for your pay-per-view. This is commonly called fleecing people. This is commonly called squeezing the financial rag dry. And I said, fuck that. And I would miss out on fights. Even though I'm a massive boxing fan, I'm not doing it. So I boycotted pay-per-view. Now, nowadays, now that pay-per-view is rife, some people say, oh, that's worth pay-per-view. I'll have that. I'm not paying for that one. No, in fact, no. Look, if your attitude is that you're going to pick and choose, that you're going to, shall we use the phrase cherry pick, right? Then why are you complaining about the system? That's the system. Some other person might think that the one you don't want to watch on pay-per-view is worthy. My personal view is boycott pay-per-view. And then fighters who accept astronomical amounts of money as purses will have to accept less. So a Joshua or a Fury, instead of getting 50 million, will have to accept the lowly sum of 15 million. Maybe even 10. Poor lambs. So, by the way, there's a precedent for this. You remember the David Hay Audley pay-per-view fight? It killed pay-per-view for a while. And Eddie Hearn, when he got his exclusive contract, had to resurrect it. And he did so by stacking a card, which was Bellew Cleverly 2. It's a great card, even though the main event was rubbish. And he said, oh, it's for 12 quid. I think it was 12 or 50, I think it was 12. Come on, 12 quid. Meh, meh, meh. So, you know, people said, oh, 12 quid. Well, they were grumbling, but they paid it. And it was a great card, very, very deep card. But he was establishing a market. He was a salesman. Now you have situations where any old crap is pay-per-view because the market has been established, so people expect it. This is what salespeople do. They'll give you something, very good value for money. Gradually the value for money diminishes. And whatever it is you're paying for becomes more frequent. My personal view is boycott pay-per-view. I used to miss fights back in the 90s, mid-90s, late 90s. I used to miss loads of fights. Now on the internet around, there is now. You can stream fights and don't have any guilt about using illegal streams. Don't have the slightest guilt. Because I guarantee you promoters and even many fighters who receive these astronomical amounts of money, I'm talking about the pay-per-view, they don't really give a fuck about you. So my advice is boycott pay-per-view, stream it. I haven't paid for a pay-per-view since 1996, I think it was. Yeah, don't know. Don't say, oh, I like that one. That's good value for money, isn't it? Don't like that one. What are you talking about? Joseph Parker Chisora will be watched by a lot of people in New Zealand because Parker's... Oh, I'm talking about the first fights. The rematch isn't on pay-per-view, but the first one was. In New Zealand, they had high viewing figures because Joseph Parker is popular over there, just because you're not into it. But for me, the best way to tackle the whole pay-per-view nonsense is to boycott it and stream everything without guilt. So there's that. Don't whine about pay-per-view, accept it or reject it. The second thing I want to talk about is, and this has arisen very, very sharply, to great, great heights, thanks to the internet and social media and all that shit. And that is couch potatoes calling fighters cowards. Or, as a little subcategory, saying that fighter A is ducking fighter B. So, the first point, we'll keep that nice and brief. If you're sitting in your mum's basement, fat as fuck, waiting for mum to call down and say, dinner's ready. And the most energetic thing you do is either fart or move from one side of the sofa to the other, then you do not have the right to call any fighter a coward. I don't give a fuck if there's someone who's got 2 wins and 60 defeats. When they get in that ring, they're risking themselves. And for some scrawny little fuck or some fat fuck like you, not you personally, but somebody you may know, somebody you see online, to slag these people off, it's just pathetic. You're a total wanker if you do that. Now, that's not to say that you can't have serious adult discussions about whether fighter A essentially quit against fighter B. Maybe they'd had enough. Maybe they were worried about their health. Dubois against Joyce is a good example. Certainly Kell Brook in the fight against Spence. Fighters do sometimes say, fuck this, I've had enough, I'm out of here. I'm done. Is that cowardice? I don't think so. I'm very, very tolerant of people who quit. Because everyone's got their pain threshold, everyone's got their point where they say, do you know what, I've had enough of this, bollocks to this. If they've given their all previously and they've got a busted cheekbone or a fucking busted hand or something, then yeah, it's their right to say, I've had enough of this. And it's our right to say, to acknowledge that and say, yeah, essentially they quit. But to call them cowards, yeah, I think is bullshit. And I've really got no time for people that do that. The subcategory is that a lot of fighters, they get accused of ducking people. You didn't fight so-and-so, you were ducking him, you were doing this, you must be, therefore you must be a coward. We're back to the cowardice thing then. Well, sometimes fighters do avoid other fighters because either they're not ready for that fighter. So, for example, if someone said to Conor Benn, if someone offered Conor Benn a fight against Terence Crawford, and his team, not just Conor, but his team, Conor would probably take it. But if his team said, you're not ready yet, a few more fights, that's called managing someone's career. Did he duck Crawford? Technically, yes. But not to the point where you would go, he's a coward. He's a piece of shit. No. Sometimes it's about money. Someone gets offered an amount of a fight. What's the money? Shite. Hey, look, I know my worth. It's called prize fighting. You're entitled to get paid. And again, you can have arguments about, well, if that person had taken the fight and won, they would have made more money further down the line. That's a sensible argument. I always remember the first Holyfield-Tyson fight as a good example. A good mainstream example. Holyfield took the short end of the stick. Chump change really by his standards. Fought Tyson, won, and then went on a winning spree where he made millions. So I understand that argument. But some fighters are not ready. They perhaps haven't got time to prepare. They've got 3 or 4 weeks' notice. It doesn't necessarily indicate cowardice or that they're necessarily, well, I suppose technically they are ducking someone, but some fighters will say, look, you give me 4 weeks' notice, you give me a 10-week camp or 8-week camp even, I'll do it. Nothing wrong with that. So, number 2, don't call fighters cowards. And don't presume that every duck is an illustration of cowardice. All those stupid memes online where you put a fighter's head on a duck and they post it. I think they're being so fucking clever. Fuck off. Right. Hang on here. So, there's that. I did have a third thing that I was going to mention. What was it? Come to me in a moment. Getting old. I can't think of it. Okay. So we'll do those two things. We'll cover those two things. Pay-per-view, don't moan about it if you accept it. Either accept it or not. I don't accept it. Don't call fighters cowards. Especially if you're some fat cunt sitting on a sofa. It's not very becoming. So we'll leave it there. There was a third thing I was going to mention. I can't fucking remember it. It's gone. I can always do a third video. So anyway, thank you for listening. I hope you've understood what I've been saying as I've stuffed my face. If you're new to the channel and you could subscribe, that would be a massive help. Thank you very much for that. If you're back again, having watched previous videos, thank you so much. Much love to you. Have a nice day. I'm going to start on my fruit in a minute. Have a nice day. I'll catch you again sometime. And meanwhile, like the video, subscribe, share the video. Peace.